I never thought I'd end up here, wide-eyed and breathless, staring at someone who was supposed to be nothing more than a casual encounter, a third person in a fleeting moment, a brief experiment. Yet here I am, my pulse pounding with a realization that both exhilarates and terrifies me. I'm falling in love with my first third. And I want to share this story so you'll stay with me until the last word, to see how something so unexpected can open the door to a new kind of happiness you never knew you craved. Trust me, this will surprise you. I met Mark and Jade a year ago by pure accident. I had just moved to the city, feeling lost in a place that seemed too crowded, too busy, and too indifferent to notice my existence. A mutual friend dragged me to a local bar's trivia night, claiming it would be a perfect way for a newcomer to meet people. Mark and Jade were there, a lively couple with quick smiles, finishing each other's sentences and radiating an energy I couldn't ignore. I remember being struck by how effortlessly they seemed to connect, not just with each other, but with everyone around them. They included me in their circle as if I'd always belonged, inviting me to banter about pop culture trivia, serve as an impromptu tiebreaker, and share in the celebratory pizza after the event ended. At first, it was just a friendly link. I discovered they'd been together for 5 years, navigating city life and building separate careers, he as an architect, she as a freelance illustrator. Their synergy was electric, but it never felt exclusive or closed off. Instead, they seemed curious, open-minded, eager to learn about me, a near stranger. Over the following weeks, we hung out a few times, grabbing coffee, hiking the local trails, cooking dinners with a rotating group of friends. Nothing about this dynamic suggested it would become more than simple camaraderie. And yet, there was one evening that shifted everything. Mark, Jade, and I were at my apartment, cooking stir-fry while 90s throwback music played. Jade started dancing in the kitchen, laughing at Mark's attempts to mimic her moves, and the atmosphere was playful, warm, trusting. Something in their glances caught my attention, a spark passed between them that included me, pulling me into a moment that felt tangibly charged. I'd never experienced such a wave of closeness and curiosity from a couple before. When we sat on my couch later, bellyful, music low, city lights flickering beyond the window, Mark made a remark that left me speechless. He teased, "You know, you fit in so well with us, it's almost suspicious." Jade chimed in, half joking, "Makes me wonder if we should keep you around more permanently." We all laughed, but I felt a flicker of something deeper behind their words. I wondered if I was reading too much into it or if there was a genuine invitation implied. It turned out I wasn't imagining things. Jade texted me the next day, suggesting we grab lunch alone because she had something to run by me. Over greasy burgers and fries, she told me that she and Mark, already in a strong, loving relationship, sometimes explored the idea of a third person. Nothing casual or exploitative, but a genuine addition to their bond. She blushed while explaining it, trying to ensure I wouldn't see them as predatory or bizarre. Meanwhile, my heart thudded. I was flattered, intrigued, and terrified. When I finally found words, I managed to say, "I never considered something like that. But I can't deny I'm curious." She gave me the most relieved smile, admitted they'd been talking about it for a while, noticing my comfort around them, the click we all shared. I walked away that afternoon with my mind spinning. On one hand, the notion of a threesome or triad relationship was miles outside my safe little worldview. On the other hand, I'd felt an unspoken pull. Was I truly interested, or was I just flattered by the attention? Over the next week, I wrestled with questions. Would it ruin our friendship if I said yes? Or if I said no? How would it even work? Mark eventually texted me, confirming Jade had spoken to me. He emphasized there was zero pressure. They valued me as a friend foremost, but if I had any curiosity, they wanted me to know the door was open. The gentleness in that approach moved me deeply. It wasn't just a hookup invitation, it was them being respectful, ensuring my comfort, and that I understood we could remain friends if I declined. Little by little, I found myself drawn not just to the idea of physical intimacy, but the emotional closeness of bridging our 3 lives together. In smaller settings, like dinner at their apartment, I caught glimpses of how they worked as a team: Jade's spontaneous creativity, Mark's steady calm, the way they both lit up with good humor. And I realized I was beginning to care for them in a way that surpassed normal friendship. The moment I decided to step across that boundary was ironically quiet and simple. We were at their place, finishing a Netflix binge session. Mark had stepped out to grab more snacks, leaving Jade and me curled on the sofa. We'd been bantering about the show's plot twists, but the conversation died off, leaving an intimate hush. She turned to me, eyes flicking between my face and my mouth. I couldn't tell who moved first, but our lips brushed in a gentle, testing kiss that left my heart hammering. Mark returned to find us breathless, wide-eyed, and when he saw we weren't pushing each other away, a slow grin spread on his face. He joined us on the couch, and the delicate puzzle began to form: 3 sets of desires, 3 hearts brimming with curiosity, all colliding in a single evening. I won't dwell on explicit details. Suffice it to say that the transition from playful kisses to deeper intimacy felt surprisingly natural, guided by respect and communication. I remember trembling with nerves, but Jade and Mark guided me with tenderness, ensuring I felt safe, wanted, never out of place. The warmth of 2 sets of arms around me, the sense that I wasn't extraneous but truly included, unlocked a part of me that had yearned for this closeness. I discovered a synergy I never believed existed, a new dimension of connection, half floating in disbelief that it was even happening. After that night, we had to navigate the complicated territory of, what now? None of us wanted a one-off fling that might strain our friendship. Mark was the one who said, "We can't pretend it didn't happen. If we want this to continue, we need ground rules, open communication, and total honesty." Jade agreed, her eyes sparkling with hope. I was the hesitant one, worried about how feelings might unbalance what they already had. Because they were an established couple with years of history, and I was an outsider. Could I truly fit in? But they reassured me. They wanted me in their life, not just physically, but emotionally. They discovered they liked my sense of humor, my empathy, the way I balanced Jade's impulsiveness and matched Mark's calmer vibe. Over coffee one morning, Jade said softly, "It's like we found a missing puzzle piece we didn't even realize we needed." My chest squeezed at how earnestly she put it. Mark nodded, adding, "We want to see where this can lead, if you do, too." I consented, albeit with a swirl of excitement and anxiety. We spent the next couple of months navigating a budding triad dynamic that was unlike anything I'd known. Some days, I'd meet up with Mark for a run along the river, just the 2 of us, talking about architecture or exchanging jokes while we jogged. Other days, Jade and I would share an afternoon sketch session, or I'd watch her illustrate something whimsical on her tablet while we listened to acoustic music. On weekends, all 3 of us would gather for dinner, cooking elaborate meals, or even indulging in casual movie marathons with plenty of cuddles. The sense of belonging that bloomed was both comforting and thrilling. But let's be clear, it wasn't all smooth. We had our share of misunderstandings. For instance, I'd sometimes feel left out if Mark and Jade referred to old memories in which I played no part. They'd apologize, bridging me back in, but it stung anyway. Jade once confided that she sometimes felt insecure, wondering if I'd steal Mark's affection or if he'd prefer me. I told her, "I'm not here to replace you. I'm here to join you." She teared up and thanked me for clarifying. Mark wrestled with guilt, worrying about dividing his emotional energy. We had to learn to talk openly about jealousy, a word so taboo yet crucial for maintaining trust. The only thing that saved us was frequent check-ins, the kind of brutally honest dialogues that can be uncomfortable but end up strengthening the bond. Then there was the question, do we tell others? The three of us lived in a fairly open-minded city, but stigma around polyamory persists. Jade feared her conservative parents would freak out. Mark's co-workers often invited them to couples' dinners. How would they react if a third partner was introduced? I worried about my own circle's judgments, or about being seen as the intruder in a stable relationship. Ultimately, we decided on a cautious approach. Close friends could know if we trusted them. Others might just assume we were a tight-knit group of friends. The first time we tried going out publicly, just the three of us on a date-like scenario, felt nerve-wracking. We visited a quiet bar on a Wednesday night, choosing a cozy corner booth to share cocktails. Jade sat between Mark and me, occasionally resting her hand on my knee or leaning her head on Mark's shoulder. People cast curious glances. A part of me braced for negative reactions, but mostly, they left us alone. We realized the world rarely pays as much attention to you as you fear. We had a lovely evening, laughing, sampling fancy drinks, discussing everything from travel dreams to silly childhood stories. By the end, we walked home, arms looped around each other, the city lights winking overhead, feeling unstoppable. Somewhere along the line, I realized that an even deeper feeling had blossomed. It wasn't just lust or excitement, I was falling in love, profoundly and wholeheartedly, with them both. This hit me one Saturday morning, lying in bed as sunlight streamed across Jade's hair. Mark had gone to make coffee, his footsteps padding quietly on the hardwood. I watched Jade breathe, her lashes fluttering as she dozed, a wave of tenderness washing through me. My chest felt tight, and I thought, I love her. When Mark returned, handing us mugs of coffee, his grin crinkling the corners of his eyes, I felt the same wave again. I love him, too. I wasn't sure how to handle that. Could one heart hold this much devotion? Eventually, I mustered the courage to say it. The three of us were lazing on their living room rug, music playing softly, candles burning low. I blurted, I love you both, you know. The atmosphere thickened, as if the air itself recognized the gravity of those words. Mark exchanged a glance with Jade, and then they both smiled, bashful, radiant. Jade's voice trembled slightly when she said, "We love you, too." We've been scared to admit it, but it's true. The relief that flooded me was indescribable. For the first time in my life, I felt the fullness of being accepted, cherished, recognized for exactly who I was, by two incredible people. Of course, not everyone understood. A few friends politely drifted away, uncomfortable with the idea. Jade's mom asked too many questions about that roommate friend, forcing Jade to stonewall. Mark's boss made a joking remark one day about keeping it spicy, which Mark found humiliating. But we learned to keep our bubble resilient. Some people would judge no matter what, while others would be supportive. What mattered was the three of us were forging a path that felt true, respectful, and deeply loving. As the months turned into a year, we settled into an even steadier routine. We started exploring the idea of living together. At first, it seemed daunting. Could we truly share a home without stepping on each other's toes or sparking constant jealousy? But the thought of separate apartments started feeling artificial, like we were forcing distance when we all wanted closeness. So we took the plunge. We found a spacious loft with 2 bedrooms, one as a creative studio for Jade's illustration work, the other as a joint bedroom, wide windows, and enough common area to let Mark set up a drafting table for his architectural sketches. I moved in with them, letting go of my old apartment. The day we signed the lease, we celebrated with cheap champagne and takeout, dancing around the empty loft like kids in a candy store. Living together, we discovered small tensions but also a deeper sense of unity. Jade might burst with 3 a.m. creativity, Mark might stress over deadlines, I might hog the sofa with a gaming console. We compromised. We made meal plans, we held house meetings every Sunday to discuss chores and emotional check-ins, who felt left out, who needed personal space, etc. It might sound overly structured, but ironically, that structure gave us freedom to flourish. We each found ways to balance personal needs and collective care. Some nights, I'd go read alone in the spare bedroom, while they cuddled on the couch. Other nights, Mark might choose to watch old black and white films with me, while Jade took a late stroll for inspiration. There was no script, just genuine regard for one another's well-being. The deeper we grew intertwined, the more I realized how powerful love can be when it's not constrained by conventional rules. I was no longer the extra person, we were 3 corners of a triangle, each pair having its own vibe, and all 3 of us forming an incredible synergy. I found that the relationship taught me about communication on a level I'd never known. We had to be open about feelings before they festered into resentment. We had to celebrate small gestures, Jade leaving me a post-it note that said "Draw me, silly," or Mark picking up my favorite coffee beans on his way home. Our daily life overflowed with these tokens of affection that reminded me how lucky I was to be part of this. Don't get me wrong, there were stormy days. Once, Jade nearly slammed the door after an argument about finances, because balancing 3 incomes and bills can get messy. Another time, Mark's parents decided to drop by the city unexpectedly, and we scrambled to hide any sign that their son was in a triad. The emotional toll weighed on him, and he snapped at me for not being supportive enough. That night, tears were shed. But each time, we circled back, forging stronger bonds through heartfelt apologies and reaffirmed devotion. Now, reading all this, you might wonder if we see a future that includes marriage or children, if that's even possible in our arrangement. The truth is, we're still exploring. Some days, Jade jokes about adopting a dog, or Mark teases about living in the countryside one day. Me, I keep an open mind. Because if there's one thing I've learned from this entire journey, it's that love doesn't always arrive in the shape or structure you expect. Sometimes, it barrels into your life as 2 bright-eyed lovers inviting you to share in their joy. Sometimes, it's messy, but it's also the most genuine sense of belonging you've ever felt. And that's why I asked you to stay until the end. Because I wanted to show you how a random meeting at a trivia night can spiral into a polyamorous triad that's built on respect, honesty, and real love. I want you to see that even if the world judges or struggles to comprehend it, the depth of care we share can outshine the doubts. I fell in love with my first third, I fell in love with Mark, and Jade, too. If you'd told me a couple years ago that I'd build a home with 2 partners who are just as devoted to me as I am to them, I'd have laughed it off as impossible. But life loves to rewrite our assumptions. Even now, as I type these final lines, Jade sits across from me on our worn couch, sketching a new design for her next illustration. Mark is in the kitchen, humming an off-key tune while stirring a pot of tomato sauce. And I, from behind my laptop, can't stop smiling because I hear them banter. They call me over to taste the sauce, teasing that it needs salt. I'll get up, join them, and we'll share a meal, 3 souls who once lived separate stories but now blend them into something precious. That's our life. It might not fit neatly in a box labeled traditional, but it's real and it's ours. So if you remember only one thing from this long confession, let it be that love can blossom in shapes we never anticipated. The heart is more flexible, more expansive, more capable of embracing multiple people than we usually allow. My first third turned out to be not just a fleeting fling, but a gateway to a love that makes me believe in possibilities beyond the ordinary. And for that, I will always remain grateful, and perhaps a little awestruck, that a single night of trivia led us to a place where 3 hearts could beat in unison, rewriting the rules, and finding undeniable joy in the process.